imagine this. You go to a hospital because you're having a mental health crisis. That crisis is this: you think that the police are trying to kill you. So you're in the hospital, right? You leave the hospital and then you get attacked by the police, by a K-9, and you are completely innocent. Wow, that's exactly what happened. Let's put up the picture full mass here, all right? This went down in Galveston, Texas, in an apparent case of mistaken identity. It landed Mr. Jeremi Cummins, the man you're looking at, in jail for days in May after police thought he was an escaped inmate. His lawyer said the police K-9 even bit off half of his ear during the arrest. Mr. Cummins was leaving the hospital on May 8th after receiving mental health treatment. Mr. Cummins voluntarily checked himself into the hospital because he was imagining that the police were trying to kill him. Surveillance video from the outside of University of Texas Medical Branch in Galveston shows police pull up behind Mr. Cummins and begin to pursue him on foot with the K-9. Let's stop there just for a moment. Just for a moment. You have been treated for what the doctors have said. Hey, you're having hallucinations, or you're going through a paranoid schizophrenic episode. The things you are imagining are not real, Mr. Cummins. These things are not going to happen to you. The police are not trying to kill you. So you stay in this hospital. You get released. They tell you that you are okay. And you walk out the damn hospital to be chased by the police and to have your ear bitten off by their K-9. Mr. Cummins' attorney, Alberto Ruiz, said, and I quote, he's telling them, I'm not an escaped inmate. I know what you're trying to do, but I'm not an escaped inmate. But officers continue to follow him before releasing the K-9. The K-9 then bites Mr. Cummins multiple times before he's tackled to the ground by officers and handcuffed. I'm not an effing inmate, man, Cummins says to the officers. We can see it in the body cam video. Cummins knew the worst thing he could do was run. Mr. Cummins said, and I quote, everybody knows that if you're an escaped inmate, they've got the right to shoot you on sight, especially if you run. I've got mental problems, but I'm not crazy. I did not run. There's more. Further, body cam footage shows soon after that, the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, an officer walks up to the scene. I asked you where you came from and you took off running, the officer said. I didn't even know you, B-word. And why'd you stop me for? Cummins replied, what the F are you stopping me for? In a second body cam video at UTMB, a police officer there, the cop admits they made a mistake, all right? You ready to hear this? The officer asked the person on his radio. So TDCJ sees this guy wearing scrubs and wearing like a blanket. They think he's one of theirs. They go after him thinking it's a prisoner, but it ain't nobody. It's just somebody who just left the ER. After all of that, Cummins, who was just walking home after he was released from the hospital, was then taken to jail. Despite all of the information, they charged him with evading arrest and took him to jail, according to the attorney. Those charges were ultimately dropped. The police would not comment on the incident, but DCJ sent out a statement to KHOU 11 that said, and I quote, on May 8th, 2022, TDCJ correctional officers noticed a non-TDCJ patient of UTMB walking suspiciously toward the prison side of the hospital. UTMB police were notified and responded. Well, there you have it. We're protecting and serving. A black man was walking suspiciously. What were we supposed to do? We have to protect the community here. Black people cannot walk in a suspicious manner. That's illegal. Doesn't make sense, does it? It's completely contrary to the rule of law, but it is aligned to the culture of the law for the lawmen. There's more. Mr. Cummins and his attorney are now seeking damages. They're seeking damages from the hospital's police department and an apology. If their demands aren't met, the attorney says they will be filing a federal lawsuit. They made a mistake and they've got to pay, Mr. Cummins said. Think about everything that happened here. Think about the fact they had no report of an inmate or a detainee escaping. There was no report of this, okay? They just assumed black man scrubs escapee. Wait a minute, you're on a hospital campus. You never assumed that possibly, since there's no report of prisoner escape, that possibly this could actually be a patient who's wearing scrubs. Didn't cross your mind. But even when it did, even when you were well aware this person was not an escaped detainee, he had nothing to do with your jail, you criminalized him anyway. You arrested him anyway. You made him go to jail anyway. You see, this has to do with your bias. Your bias in the beginning and your bias in the conclusion. And for that reason, it creates a slam dunk for this attorney who's going to defund your ass, right? Nobody seems to have a problem when the police defund the police, but I guarantee you, at some point, taxpayers, you have to stand up and realize that bad cops, corrupt cops, negligent cops, criminal cops, they steal money from you in situations just like this. Don't worry, I will bring you the report when they figure out how much money they're going to pay Mr. Cummins. Ben, thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I'm gonna come in with a cynical take, right? And I'm gonna say that it is both equally likely that they mistaked this person for an escaped convict, and they just saw somebody that they thought they could get away with sticking a dog on, right? Because to be honest, like, let's be real, we've seen it plenty of times before where police officers just engage in wanton violence just because they can and they feel like it, and like they get excited about it or something, right? Like these are, we know the type of people that join police departments. So I think both of those stories are equally likely, because I'm not about to take the words of a police officer at face value when they have such a long history of lying. And the reason why I say this is because sending a dog after somebody is not something you do right out of the gate, right? Now, first and foremost, I don't think police officers should be allowed to have K-9 units. I think K-9 units shouldn't exist. It's abusive to the dog, it's abusive to the people. Scruff McGruff is not real. You cannot smell crime, neither can police dogs. They don't know who's innocent, they don't know who's guilty, and they don't have any restraint. Right? And you can't restrain a dog either if you're a police officer. Like, the truth is, you really can't. It's gonna do what it's gonna do. And they're trained to be pretty vicious and brutal. But the reason, like, he just sends a dog after somebody and then arrests them anyway and tries to say that he was like evading arrest. It's just ridiculous on its face. And it just seems gratuitous and needless.
It is so ridiculous that a person can be arrested for resisting arrest or avoiding arrest or evading arrest, and they were not under arrest in the first place. It doesn't make sense, all right? We'll continue to follow that story.